safety and protection in all that we do. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Would you please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'd like to recognize any scouts or youth that are here, any students, so it doesn't look like we have any. Last meeting we had, what was it, 5 or 6, and they actually came up and sat with us on the rostrum here. Yeah, kind of scared them, and they ate more candy than anybody I'd ever seen, because we do have candy up here. All right, sounds good. We have some people who would like to make some comments to us. I have 5 sheets here, and so I'll just take them as they were handed to me. And we give you 3 minutes, and just kind of keep that in mind as far as the timetable goes, and we'll kind of make you aware of that. So, but the first one has to do with Thomas Maurer is here for topic to address us in relationship to development on 1600 South. Is he here? Okay, this came in by email, so, okay, I'll read his comments if that's okay. I live on 1600 South Road and have loved it for the past 4 years, but with the current development plan, it may force me and my family to move or face a legal battle with the state. I'm concerned about the fact that the plan to remove existing power from a side of the street that doesn't have homes to my side of the road over my home. This not only could have health concerns, but devaluing my investment, which is my home, without my say. So we'll put that as part of the record. Okay, Mr. Miyagi, you're welcome to come up, and you wanted to do some clarification, so thank you. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. And just so I understand, the zoning change with the interlocal agreement does not work for everyone. And so I've been thinking about this possibility of bringing down the sewer if that's the only issue that's at hand. You don't want to do an interlocal agreement, so we have to keep the sewer utility in Springville. Is that a fair statement? If we pay for the sewer, will we be able to do this? I guess is the question.
I should set the ground rules.
Oh.
This is opportunity for you to talk to us.
I see.
We don't have an interchange back and forth.
Okay.
And we don't take any action in relationship to the comments that are made.
I see.
But it allows you to be able to share with us your thoughts and feelings
Okay.
and circumstances of whatever it was. Now, you were in the meeting before, and so you're welcome to share with us some of your thoughts.
Okay.
But again, it's not for us to have a dialogue or
Oh, I
to
see.
actually take action on it. So,
Okay, thank
okay?
you.
All right, yeah.
If I could interject too, one of the reasons for that is this group doesn't really know how to answer that question.
Oh, I see.
But if you want to come in, you can talk to the Public Works Director, Brad Stapley, who's right behind you, and others, and they can have a better dialogue.
Okay.
Yep, and we'd welcome that to happen out in the foyer afterwards, so, yep.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
sorry about that, I
Yeah.
apologize.
So the reason why there's so much urgency, so I think there was a mention that this could be developed in 5 years or maybe even less. But my mom turns 80 next year, and this is the retirement, and they, I would really like to get this done, while they're still alive, and so there were some health issues that they had the last several years, which kind of prompted me to want to really figure out a way to do this, and so I'm not sure with whether it's disconnection that we need to do to go through that process to be able to get this done, or if we are able to somehow agree on a pioneer agreement and pay for the cost of the sewer up front in hopes of maybe recouping it over time. We'd like to explore those options. I know natural progression is what you desired, you expressed that is most favorable, but I don't think we have that luxury just given our age. And I'm turning 51 in a couple of months, so there's only so much time, that we have to be able to kind of figure this out, and so that's really what I was trying to accomplish here.
Great.
But thank you.
Thank you
I really
very
appreciate
much.
all the concerns and the heartfelt. Thank you. I really appreciate it very much.
Well, we invite you to have dialogue with Mr. Stapley if you'd like to, and also with Mr. Yost, and
Okay.
if you want to continue that dialogue with them. I think they have the kind of the feeling from the last meeting, and
Okay.
let you have that dialogue, and you're certainly welcome to it. So,
Thank you very much.
yep, you betcha. Thank you. Okay, Hayden, Houston.
So just for reference, I represent Aki Miyagi. I've worked with him and his family for many years on other projects. I'm simply here to speak and say thank you again for hearing our petition. As Aki had mentioned, his family's getting old. I've helped him through a lot, monetarily speaking, through representation. One thing I just wanted to mention is kind of twofold things. We're 100% willing to work with Springville. I hope that's, very known. We want to help spur development, growth. I personally love the area. It's a growing town. Commercial's coming. 1600 South is going to boom. We want to make it work, and we want to do what's best not only for the city but also for Aki Miyagi. Development's coming. I personally have helped broker and do a lot of land deals in Spanish Fork, Salem, Payson, South Provo. Nothing in Springville besides Aki Miyagi. Development's coming, and all we're hoping to do is to make sure that we are developing with it here in Springville, especially with the Miyagi property. That being said, thank you again for hearing our petition. We'd love to work with you guys moving forward, and I hope tonight goes well. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Chris.
Hello all, and I've sat over there and tried to help out previous planning commissions and city council members in Harriman, and it doesn't go any better in hindsight. And I stood against a giant development there in Harriman, and the county built it anyway. So I totally get the natural progression and the need to really kind of hold on to control, because I now have to drive by the unsightly Olympia Hills development that we saw. I have to take my kid to football practice right next to it. I have to coach 23 kids. And so I totally get it. The parts that I don't get and I would like to speak to tonight is sitting in that planning commission meeting is that we're all waiting on kind of like a community development plan and the 1600 South Corridor Agreement. And at the end of the day, Aki Miyagi's property and the properties I have under contract next to it that everybody was worried would domino right with it, well, they're either going industrial and they're already zoned industrial, and I can sell the industrial tomorrow and do what's planned to do, or we can try to work with Springville City, which is what I believe Aki is trying to do, and we can put that product there that we already wanted, just skip the waiting 20 years. And so, like I said, I would just ask one thing. When we see this in emails in the up and coming weeks, and I've been the one sending some of the emails, that we look at it with attention and say, is there a way that we can move forward and get what we want? Because the last thing, that it's not a threat to disconnect, right? It's just, what else can we do? And the option isn't sit there and wait for 20 years and see if a road ever gets built. Because some stuff has happened, and there's one comment that's hey, look, in 5 years we've imagined this progress. But how many revisions has there been to the 1600 South Corridor Agreement? So I get that we're all trapped in that, right? And we all look at the developer as profit. A lot of those properties were not bought for those reasons, and a lot of those properties, like the ones I have under contract, are. And so there's different things that we can do, and I think Aki's open to that, and I'm definitely open to it. Like I said, I own the properties, or I have some of the properties under contract directly to the side of it. And there's a lot of acreage there, and guys that are old in their age and want to get rid of it. And that's how I came to meet Aki, is wanting to sell it and wanting to move on with something that's been in their family and isn't going to continue in their lineage. So that is the way development goes, and I do understand that you find folks are tasked with some of the most frustrating individuals in the world. So have a wonderful night. Thanks for hearing me out.
You've actually been really nice. Okay, Chad? Neath?
Good evening. Thanks for let me speak. So I live on 625, at 625 South on Canyon Drive. And since I've been there about 6 years. I've witnessed 5 horrible accidents. One a few weeks ago, you guys have heard of this, was fatal. That was my friend's daughter. I know you guys are doing stuff to research and handle the situation, especially at that crosswalk. Because today I saw you guys. There were people placing counters, and there have been some speed monitors out there, and I know the cops have been out there watching and giving tickets and everything, which is appreciated. I just would like to maybe suggest, I'm sure maybe you're doing this already, but if you're not, suggest not just focusing in that one area, because that whole street is really hard for people to get out of their driveways. I witnessed a truck getting overturned as it hit a car that was pulling out of the driveway, and the speed of that road itself is just too fast. On the north side of the road, like as you're going up 400 South and you hit that roundabout up there that hits Canyon Drive, the north side of the road is 30 miles an hour. It's 35 if you go up the canyon. And, I know people like to get places fast, but the speed limit itself is pretty fast on that road, and because people go probably 40 to 50 on that road regularly. And so I know just reducing the speed limit won't handle the problem, so maybe some additional traffic calming measures. I know you guys have thought about a roundabout at that intersection that goes down to the high school. But even then, up the road still we're going to have other issues, so maybe some additional traffic calming. And even if the roundabout doesn't happen, the current crossing light that's at that intersection for the kids to cross, I for a few mornings have gone out and monitored myself what happens, and there's like a light pole in front of the crossing walk light, so cars can't even see that the light's on because it's behind that pole. So I watched cars the light's on, a kid's crossing, and like the cars like hurry and slow down really fast because they're going the speed limit or above, and they can't see the light, and then they notice, oh, there's a light flashing, and then they have to really slow down. And so maybe some width reduction in the road in key places would be good. Maybe the use of hawk lights instead of those lights on the sides of the road would be useful. My son actually was crossing that, and there was a big moving truck that was turning right, and he was coming up from the school, up the hill. The moving truck was going to turn right, but he pressed the light. The light was on, it was flashing. He went to cross, and the car that was going up Canyon Road, didn't see that the light was flashing because the truck was blocking that, and so my son almost got hit. The car slammed on its brakes. So it's just, I know you guys are aware, and I appreciate you guys for looking into it, but I would suggest maybe more than just that intersection, because the whole road is kind of scary. So
Well, those are awfully good comments, and we appreciate it. I know that we have public safety and also Brad working on that for those, but there was open discussion in relationship to other places in town that we likewise feel concerned about. So we're actively looking at it in the Hawk system and whatnot. I actually forwarded that to Mr. Stapley 3 days ago. So, I mean, we're trying to figure out how the best way to do it.
awesome. Yeah. Oh, and one other thing that reminded me. So in San Diego, my dad lives next to a road that was really busy and fast, and they reduced the width by putting curbing. So in those key areas, like where a crosswalk is,
Right.
they'll put curbing in, and because we have like, you know, the bike, the area of the road that's for bikes, they would put the curbing along just a thin curbing and some reflectors on the curbing next to the crosswalks, but then that gave room still for the bikes to travel through that area and have their section of the road, but then it would do the width reduction in those areas too, so.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you very much for coming, taking the time to actually do this, so thank you. Okay. We have an appointment for a new Springville Justice Court judge. Oh, well, we didn't approve the agenda. Thanks, Kim.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda as written.
Second?
Just a question on it.
Yes.
Weren't we going to add one?
Oh, we were. Yes, thank you.
So with your motion.
So I'll make that motion with the addition of Carla speaking to us about PIDs.
Very good. With that addition, I have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thanks, Kim. Appreciate that. Okay, we have an appointment for a new Springville city judge. So this was quite a little process. I've never been through it before. I went like, wow, I get to actually be a part of hiring the judge for Springville as the mayor. I have never had that experience before. So, and we had, I believe, just real quick, 22 people that applied to be the judge, and which is really remarkable that people would want to do that. And it came down to there was some representation from Mapleton, representation from Springville, who thinned the 22 down to actually 4 finalists that we had a chance to be able to interview. Mayor Hakes and I interviewed. He's the mayor of Mapleton. He and I interviewed all 4 of them, and we were pleased to be able to offer this to our nominee. So we're very grateful for he and his wife to be here. And if you want to come and just introduce yourself, and we'll see you here, and hopefully never professionally. So,
Well, Mayor and Council, it's an honor to be here. My name's Eric Jewell. I spent most of my career in justice courts. I was the prosecutor for Payson City for 10 years. We also had a contract with Mapleton, so I spent some time there. Spent a little time here filling in once in a while. But the last year and a half, I've been the judge in Payson and Santaquin. So this was just a great fit for me to come here, make it a full-time position. So I'm honored to be here. It's humbling to be selected from so many great applicants, and had a great meeting with Mayor Packard, and appreciate his confidence in me, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
any questions for him?
I knew some jewels when I lived over there on the west side of town.
I don't think I have any relatives down here,
Okay.
mostly up in Idaho.
Okay. Wonder if I knew you when you were 4 years old.
Yeah.
So do you live in Payson or?
Live in Payson, yeah.
We'll convert him over.
I've always loved Springville though, so Payson was where we came, had the job there, but yeah, love it here too.
Any questions?
I can't think of any, but but thank you for coming to Springville and serving.
I'm looking forward to it and appreciate it.
Just as a side note, just for his, is that there was the ability for people to give us feedback, comments, and whatnot. We had an incredibly thick opportunity to really review him. We had all of the tickets they've had since they started driving. I mean, seriously, it was a very in-depth packet that we had a chance to review, and Judge Jewell had just incredible comments of how well-tempered he is, gets the job done, but treats people with respect, which now Mayor Hicks and I were most concerned about picking somebody who would fit into our community, do justice and do what was right, but from a personality standpoint would fit in, and we felt very comfortable with you there. We also have some people, he has been here substituting for our current judge, and they've swapped some times, and our clerks who have worked with him all spoke very highly of him, so we're very grateful for that.
Yeah,
So
the staff's here is great. It's great to come in and have such wonderful staff, so looking forward to it.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. So I need an approval on a motion for appointing him as the Springville Court. It will be for Springville, and then the Mapleton City Council will do it for Mapleton, which he'll become the Springville Mapleton judge. So I'm open for a motion.
I can make the motion. I make a motion to approve resolution number 2022-48, appointing Eric Jewell as the Springville Justice Court Judge.
Great, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, that's a roll call vote. Liz,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you very much. It's an honor. Thank you.
All right, appreciate you coming. Mapleton will hold their council meeting tomorrow on Wednesday, and if they approve it like we think, then you'll be officially in, so.
Don't we
Thank
swear him in at some point?
January 2nd is my official start date, so I think
And I'm not sure who does that, so we'll figure that out.
we could do it unofficially. We could do it in council meeting, whatever works best. Yeah.
Well, this would be very interesting because they're also very concerned about the timing of Judge Fenstermaker retiring and you getting in the seat. So we'll figure that out. I'll let Patrick kind of work out what is appropriate to make sure there's continuity of service. So,
Sounds great.
okay, thank you very
Thanks
much.
so much.
Appreciate it. Okay, you all had a chance to kind of review the consent agenda that's listed. Any questions in relationship to the consent agenda? Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm so glad Kim's around. We pay her an incentive to catch me, and she's actually making lots of money. So what she's talking about is on the schedule, all of the schedules seem to work out okay, if I remember right, except for there's a council meeting on July 4th. And the question on the table is what to do on July 4th. My recommendation, I am not going to be here on July 4th, so we can either move it to the 5th and let you gentlemen and ladies handle this, or we can move it to the 11th, or we can just not do anything at all and move, just have one council meeting in July. So it's entirely up to you as what you'd like to do.
I think sometimes moving it back a week puts it so close to the other meeting that it becomes not necessary. I mean, I've seen that happen before, that there's not enough, so I would say we, at this point, skip it, but if in the middle of June we see it's catching up with us, we'd have a couple of weeks to reschedule and could do it then. That would
Okay.
be my thought.
All right,
Yeah, I like that.
I agree with that
all
thought.
right. There we go, Kim. So we'll suspend that one and leave it open, so. Okay, I am open for approval of the consent agenda then.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's a roll call vote. Chris?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Liz?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, Chief Haight, you're on. Thank you. There's 2 items I believe you're doing, is that correct?
Yes and no.
Okay, I'll let you explain. Go for it.
Mr. Mayor and the City Council, thank you for hearing me out tonight. So I submitted a staff report that outlines 2 potential ordinance for the city. We placed one of those ordinances on the agenda for tonight, but the other one didn't make it to the agenda. So I believe that I can discuss both ordinances, but correct me if I'm wrong, John, I don't believe we can only vote on the one that's been agendized.
That's correct. We'll bring the other one back on the 20th.
But we can make it a consent item if we've
Yes.
had the review and people don't have any questions.
That's correct, yes.
There are 2 motions on my agenda, is that not right?
Well, it's the actual agenda that we're having an issue with. So on the actual agenda, it only talked about the ordinance dealing with unlawful transfers on roadways. And so we do have, the staff report talks about 2. I think your motion page probably has 2, but
Yeah.
that the agenda that went out to the public only has the
Oh,
one.
okay, that's, because we saw 2. Okay.
So the first proposed ordinance that I'll discuss is the unlawful transfer on a roadway, and I can give you a high-level overview, and if you want more detail, please let me know. So essentially, this ordinance is all about safety and about traffic flow. When we survey the citizens of Springville every other year, usually always in the top 3 is traffic. And so this ordinance would address one of the traffic issues that could be a problem. So this addresses it would make it unlawful for persons who are pedestrian to have an exchange with somebody who's in a vehicle on the roadway. And there's definitions here for what a roadway is and what a driver and a pedestrian are. So it would make it unlawful for somebody standing on or adjacent to the roadway to accept something from a driver or a passenger of a vehicle, or to give something to a driver or passenger vehicle. And again, this is all about safety and traffic flow. And it pertains to Springville City streets designated as collector streets in non-residential zones or arterial streets, and highways owned and maintained by the state of Utah or Utah County. So I think we've done a good job of making good definitions of things and crafted a good ordinance here, and I think it will contribute to safety and efficient traffic flow in Springville.
So how do we get the word out for this, and how do we enforce that?
So we'll put it in the newsletter. We'll put out through social media, and then initially we'll issue warnings only, for educational process. And then if we get people who receive if they're stopped again for a violation after receiving a warning, then we can step it up to enforcement.
Are you any worry? I guess even if there are any worry about it every day, the PR part of this will be difficult. I think at times when citizens are pulled over that are trying to help somebody out and they're being told they're going to get a ticket. I think we have to be, and I know you will be. I just think that's the negative of this that I see, is that we're putting you in a spot that you have to kind of.
So it'll
tell people, nah, you can't give it. I know there's ways they can make it work, but
Right.
I think that's going to be a little issue that arises for you.
So it'll be an educational process, and our officers will be sensitive to that. But I think we can be successful.
The bottom line is it needs to happen.
It does, yeah.
And Chief, you said that Provo's had this implemented for how long? Something similar.
I don't know for how long.
I believe about 5-6 years. Is how
Oh,
long.
it's been for.
Yeah, so they've had it for several years. And I've spoken to their attorneys over there. It has actually been just a wonderful thing to help reduce accidents, help reduce issues with respect to slowing down traffic, things like that. So, and it really doesn't stop anybody from doing what they want to do. They just have to, get off as it says here, a collector street if it's non-residential, or arterial street, and then you can, do whatever you need to do.
That's helpful to hear about their experience.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I think it's a good ordinance.
Other questions? Okay.
So that's the one you could potentially vote on tonight and pass.
All right.
The second ordinance included in the packet is for aggressive panhandling, and it speaks to conditions under which solicitation would be unlawful. And it really there's definitions and language here that is very specific about what constitutes aggressive solicitation. And basically, what this ordinance will do is to provide a level of safety and comfort for people where they don't feel threatened, intimidated, coerced, or victimized to obscene or abusive language during solicitation. So it doesn't prohibit solicitation as long as it's reasonable, but it does prohibit aggressive solicitation.
Okay, have you had a chance to review it? Thoughts on it?
No, I think it's good.
My only question was, Chief, is I just read here, and of course I'm sensitive to ATMs and banks. Is there a way is 10 feet really enough, or would there be a better distance of 20 or 30 feet? 10 feet standing out in front of a bank is pretty short distance, and it makes people feel uncomfortable. So my recommendation is I would have a higher number than that. I don't know, 30 feet or 50 feet, something, because that's where people know money is being transacted. People have gone there for money, and I'm just thinking about the perception of safety, if that's what we're most concerned about. So,
Yeah, I think it could be expanded to a reasonable distance. I mean, we certainly couldn't go like within a mile of or something like that, but yeah, a reasonable distance within.
Yeah, what we can do is we can bring back to the council when this comes back to council on December 20th to kind of show what's been done in other cities. But I think for the most part, it's not uncommon to see 20 to 30 feet. 50 feet is kind of uncommon. I mean, you're looking at a pretty decent or distance of 50, but I think 20 to 30 is pretty common.
Yeah, I mean, or that's, I'm just thinking about the mentality of people exiting a bank or at an ATM. They're quite concerned about just their safety, particularly an ATM, because money's being dispensed and they can see it.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yeah, good suggestion.
Any other thoughts on this?
I know it's not panhandling, but the door-to-door salespeople, I know they're governed by other ordinances, but at times they become quite aggressive. This doesn't filter into that, does it, though?
It doesn't, but this again isn't really limited to panhandling. This is any solicitation that's
Okay.
within a public
Well,
area.
if a person felt like they could call and,
Yeah, and with something like that, I mean, that amounts to a disorderly too. If it's on private property and you're saying, "Hey, go away," and they still come at you. So I mean, there's a lot of different ways to get at that. But this applies too if you're just walking down the street and
yeah.
somebody comes up.
I
to
knew
you.
that, I didn't realize, that's what I wanted to clarify, if
Yeah.
it did apply.
Yep.
But it
So
probably already does if we
Yeah.
wanted to, so.
Very good.
Okay, good.
In both these ordinances, these are both, I would assume, modeled off other communities.
Yes.
So like the no exchange or transfers within the roadway, that was modeled probably off of what Provo's done in the past, or?
Yes.
Payment not included.
They're both tried and proven.
Yes. I mean, because everybody has a constitutional right, especially in a public area, to free speech and those type of things, but you don't have a constitutional right to harass another person. And so that's really what's trying to happen here with the aggressive solicitation. And then also, too, anybody has a right to put up a sign on the side of a road and say whatever they want to say. But at the same time, you've got to allow the free flow of traffic and other such things. And so all we're trying to do as we get bigger and we get more vehicles and we get more people, that sort of thing, is just to allow people to still have their constitutional rights, but at the same time to do things that in a safe manner where people are not going to be harassed as well.
I did have one wonder, just demand for payment not included, this section. So is that like if you don't tip the waiter, he can chase you out the door? And
Only within 10 feet.
only within 10 feet, okay. And then if you run really fast and get to your car, then you can do that, get away without giving him a tip. I don't know. Is that what it's for?
That's good.
Just one other one that came to question in my mind. I wondered, earlier this fall, we had individual selling flowers at the main intersection on 4th South and Main. And that person's no longer there. I don't know if they had to be asked to move. But I have noticed that same person now set up on Santana Road at the intersection that goes into Spanish Fork. So I'm just, this doesn't apply to her because she's not,
They have to pull off the road to transact business.
and that's at this point isn't an arterial, is it a collector road at this point?
You talking about 1600?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it would be a collector road. And it is designated as an arterial too, and you'll see that as that road changes, it'll become wider. So
Well, I'm just saying right now, there's
Yeah.
kind of an issue there. It's still kind of scary.
the other thing too, with what you're bringing up, it sounds like they're actually doing a business, and
Yeah.
you can't really do the business in those locations. And so there's a couple different things that we need to look at if that is the situation going on.
It's not like I'm ratting on them or something, but I just think it's scary.
Yeah.
That's a pretty busy intersection nowadays, really bad. Buses and a lot of trucks and stuff like that. And I'm proud that, I hope she can find a place to make money safely. I wondered, if you were aware of that. Probably not.
I've seen them. I did see them once on 4 South in May. I
Yeah.
haven't seen them out in Santana, though.
Yeah, that's where they're at now.
Okay, so the ordinance that we can approve is the 2022?
The unlawful.
Or is it the
No.
23?
The other one, the 23.
Okay.
So I will. I was kind of cavalier in my response to you.
Oh,
So I don't think it would pertain to an angry waiter. I think, but as far as like if you went to a restaurant and didn't pay for your meal, then they can demand payment and still not violate this ordinance.
okay.
So
All right. Well, I was just thinking I kind of understood that.
Liz, if you need some money, we can.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, I was just thinking about some kids in high school with their high school
It does not apply
experience
to your
about being chased
grandchildren.
out. Yeah. Thanks, I'll give you a call.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, I'm open
Okay,
for
thank
a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 23-2022, adopting section 9-2-105.5 of the Springville City Code to restrict unlawful transfer on a roadway within Springville city limits.
Okay, I have a motion. Second.
I'll second.
Okay, it's a roll call vote. Mr. Snelson?
Yes?
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Crandall?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And the other one will come back since we're aware and on a consent item, so. Okay, Carla, we allowed you to come to the regular meeting from the work session, so we appreciate you being here. And you promised that it would be,
It'll be really quick. Promise.
okay. Well, Craig's not here, so we got all night. He always is worried about going and getting a movie in before he goes to bed, so.
Well, I don't have a movie for you. I mean, we could probably log into my Netflix and, pick something. Okay. This is how quick it is. It is a whole 2 slides. That's 1. This is 2. All right. So as we've gone over this numerous times and various discussions about public infrastructure districts, basically, what you charged us to do as staff is to develop a policy for you to review after being able to answer questions and do a little bit more research on it. And so that is what I have done with a lot of input from Bruce in finance and John and Troy and Josh to hammer out any questions or any possible hiccups. Right now, the policy is written and allows you broad discretion in accepting and establishing public infrastructure districts, and even to the discretion of saying, no, we don't want to. I mean, it's completely broad. There are some options that you have if you, and ways for you to look at how you want to do it within the policy, and now it's just a matter of reviewing it and going and getting this to a point where we would adopt it as a city policy with whatever adoptions or any changes that you would make in it, or amendments, or however you would like to do it, or if you simply choose to no longer, or to just, we don't want to do public infrastructure districts, period, that's it. So that's all it really is. Some of the things that you'll want to consider as you move it through, I believe Kim included a copy of the draft policy for all of you. A district advisory committee, cities have set those up in different ways, sometimes made up of staff, however, so how you may want to have that be composed. The financing options, what development types you'll consider, whether or not you will allow for a mill levy and what that maximum or may be, or the stipulations of that. And then also the application fee for those developers who may come in and request one. The dollar amount that I put in there is a rather hefty amount. It's more than pretty much we ask for any other type of process in the city, but it's mainly just a number to kind of hold and to see. It's taken from South Salt Lakes. They set a pretty steep fee, hoping that it would serve as a way to kind of weed out those who are not serious or not really aware of what they were doing, and kind of give one more level of weeding them out, filtering them. So that's really about it. Free to answer any questions you may have as you move through the process. If you're reading, just you can, when you're doing a little light reading at home and you want to give us a call and ask us about public infrastructure districts, you can call Josh.
Okay, we have Carla here. I hope you had a chance to kind of go through this. What, you have questions for
Can you
her?
just give me a brief example of what this could look like? What entity, how this would, where, and how this, like a preview of something that could happen?
Yes. So Typically, they work where there are large amounts of undeveloped property that are usually under the control of one or two owners, because it does require 100% of the owners to be in agreement. So let's say a property owner out along 1600 South wants to have a public infrastructure district. They would write a letter of intent. They would stating that that's what they would like to do. They would make the application. They would have to pay the $10,000 fee or whatever fee that you set for that. They would be fully responsible for providing all of the information and as far as the area the district was to cover, what they would want to do, what financing mechanism they would like. They would also be responsible for making sure that any governing documents were drawn up and were taken into account, and then they would be reviewed by you, and they would also be responsible for finding and for paying for a third party to handle the financing aspects as far as collection and disbursement of whatever financing mechanism was determined. And then you would just determine whether or not, based upon their application, if that is how you would want, if it is something that you would want to approve. You can, much of the criteria is listed in the document that we provided you. You may look at the history of performance for the developer, what they are looking to do, whether it's a residential development, whether it's a commercial development. So this document is very broad in allowing you to do whatever and to accept one and say no to another, or to kind of pick apart their proposal and accept some of it and not accept others. The district advisory committee in most cities is comprised of staff members, and they make the recommendation as far as whether to move ahead, so the council isn't bogged down with all the technicalities, and they would make the recommendations and then proceed with the public infrastructure district plan.
That helps me a little bit.
Does that help? Okay, that helps.
Are these generally used for commercial development, or are they used for residential as well, or?
Yes. So kind of depending, you see in a lot of resort communities where they're being used for residential development, but they tend to be a lot more second home type of developments rather than primary residence. In my opinion, they are most successful and most useful for communities when they are for commercial developments, because whatever, if by some chance you were to do a mill levy or whatever, it is offset by it's not passed on to a homeowner, that they are more, mill levies and those types of financing options work best with commercial. But they allow for financing through impact fees, assessments, if they're establishing within an already established redevelopment or community reinvestment area, to utilize TIF funding, tax increment financing, to use mill levies, or like I said, the assessments and special and impact fees. So. And that's something that you can look at to say that we will not. In fact, it even states at the very first page that only under unusual circumstances and highly filtered and highly scrutinized. Thank you very much. Projects for residential development, would they even be considered by the community? So.
Yeah, we appreciate it. The only thing that gives me pause is just turning the power of assessing a levy, mill levy on people that are inside your community. That's just the only thing, reason makes me go,
Yeah, and like I said, with a commercial development, the discretion of the maximum amount of the mill levy, what the exact mill levy that they could ever put on to a development would be set by you. And so it does give you a lot of control. And like I said, with the commercial development, mill levies are never great, but commercial developments tend to be a little less sensitive to them, because they are not impacting a homeowner looking to purchase
we just don't do I mean, we hold that power pretty carefully. We don't
Yes,
even
exactly.
move the mill
And
levy.
so-
And that's the only reason I just go,
And the developer has to show the significant public benefit that would come from being allowed to impose a mill levy in order to help pay for infrastructure development. And that public benefit can be very much controlled by you and what that development would look like. So
Am I right in understanding that that mill levy is only for that development? It's
it's
not,
only for,
not
yes.
for the rest of the,
No. It is
well,
only.
I thought so, but I
Yes,
wanted.
it is only for the properties within the public infrastructure district boundaries.
and you at your discretion could say yes to this one and no to that one,
Yes,
correct?
yeah.
Okay, sounds
Okay.
good.
All right, well, thank
All
you
right,
very much.
Thank you very
I
much. Thank you
appreciate
for sticking around.
Oh, not a
an
problem.
extra hour,
I
so.
appreciate you amending your agenda to make it all work. So thank you
Absolutely.
very much.
Okay, Mr. Stapley, we'll turn it over to you.
This is a simple item here. So it's the 16th South widening project that UDOT is going through. One of the things that UDOT is doing is they're going through and buying right-of-way, either for the 16th South roadway itself. And in this case, what's before you is they're buying right-of-way on a private property because as they put in the on and off ramps, they're actually having to move the frontage road. So in this case, property in question is here in turquoise. It's the Polaris property. And what's needed to happen is, based on the UDOT design they're doing right now, is they've got to accommodate these new this is the new on-ramp coming here. And it's running right through, actually, the building that's further south and the frontage road itself. And so in accommodating that, they've got to figure out a way to bring that frontage road around. And so they're connecting it into 1750 West in this location here. And so, again, just to let you know, it's going through the property that's owned by Polaris LLC. I made this bigger so you could get an idea that the property is quite large. Actually, it's a large property that goes, and so the frontage road is actually cutting it in half. And that was one of the issues that I talked with community development about was you know, in our normalcy, that's making a subdivision, right, when you're dividing a parcel. But in the staff report, you'll find that UDOT has an out on that because when they're putting right-of-ways through, they're not subject to that subdivision act. And so what's before you tonight is the area that's marked in yellowish orange there. And it's basically the warranty deed, the meets and bounds description that shows what the right-of-way would be for the frontage road passing through the Polaris property only. So in essence, I'll be coming back to you as we get through in these sections here where it's on the Barlow property. And then over here where it's coming on other properties where it's going through and connecting to 1700 West. So this is just one step of one property, and you'll be seeing me again with the same type of thing as we go through.
Okay, questions for Mr. Stapley? Pretty straightforward. Okay, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
All motion to approve. Resolution 2022-50, accepting a warranty deed from Polaris Peak LLC, which describes the frontage roadway right-of-way to be dedicated to Springville City as part of the Utah Department of Transportation, UDOT 1600 South Widening Project.
Okay, I have a motion. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, that's a roll call vote. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Snelson?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a photo to show you as an update if we're at the end of the meeting on the tank up in.
Oh, go for it. You bet.
Didn't know if you wanted to, so it'd
Yeah.
be the next slide. So this was taken this morning. We talked about the junction tank that is actually where we're bringing the sources together, and then we're able to fan out to the 3 different tanks. So this view is looking east towards the mountains. On the right side of the photo, just out of the picture, is the hydro facility that the power department owns. And of course, to the left is north. And so I'll just, so just to describe what's going on here, This is the main pipeline coming from the hydro facility, where we either run water from the canyon down through the hydro facility, or we pass around the facility, and it comes in here. Typically, it went straight through and went into this pipe, which goes to tanks 1 and 2. Tank 1 is the oldest tank at 1954. Tank 2 is mid-80s, and Tank 3 just got constructed. There's other pipelines you can't see. There's a pipeline that comes in from this bank here that they were just attaching. That's coming from Cold Springs. That's about 188 gallons per minute. It runs 24/7, doesn't change throughout the year. It's a very deep spring that we have that's over where, basically in this area where Neil Strong lives, 2100 East, in that area there. Cold Springs is kind of up in the mountain. Also, you can't see it very well, but there's another inlet pipe here. It's kind of in the shadow. That's the overflow from the upper Spring Creek tank up the canyon. So when that tank is full, it overflows downhill, comes into this location also. So we have water coming in from various locations. And then there's another pipe that goes out right here. This is a new pipe that was installed. It actually goes around and goes to tank 3. So literally all the sources come into one place, and then each of these pipes have a big valve on them. This is an example of a big butterfly valve here. There's one right here. You can see the bolt pattern. There's one over here. So we can actually control when the water's coming in where it's going to. We can choose any one of the 3 different tanks. This pipe that does go to tank 1 and 2 has another junction box further down the line where it splits to 1 and 2. So this is just to give you an update. There's setting the steel for it, putting the walls in, and moving forward. Once this is completed, then we can choose whichever tank we're sending water to, all 3 or whatever. Tank 3, the new tank, is online, is functioning, and is supplying the community at this point right now.
Oh, good. When do you project this will be completed?
End of January.
Oh,
Very good.
So that's your update.
Can I ask you one question? The wells at the city compound, do they backflow up to here? I mean, the pressure from
They
them?
pump all the way up to these tanks, yes.
They pump and fill these tanks.
So basically, out of the wells there's a big pipe that goes out into the street at 4 South, 36-inch pipe. And that pipe's just running, right? And it goes up to the
Up and
tanks,
down.
And it goes down. So depending on where the demand is, that water from the pumps either goes and makes a right-hand turn and goes out where people are using it, or makes a left-hand turn and goes up to the tank
Just
and
by
helps
pressure,
fill it. Just by pressure. It's all by pressure.
Wow.
And so, and maybe at some point it goes like this. But that's how they work, yeah.
It's amazing that it can go up that hill. I know that's how it works.
Actually, on top of tank 2, we have 250 horsepower pumps that actually pump all the way up to rotary tank, if we want to.
where?
Oh.
Up the
Up
canyon?
the canyon.
Holy cow.
So cool.
So we have a lot of options in our water system.
I'm glad I asked you
So,
that.
Too.
in case of an earthquake,
Yep.
does this create a position of it knocking out 3 or 4 tanks if that were to fail in an earthquake?
If this structure itself, it could, but it's a small enough tank that doesn't have the mass that a 3 million gallon tank has. It doesn't want to move. These are easier to move as you get maybe ground movement. If that makes sense, because it's littler.
So you could still supply water from number 3 or number 2 without this?
Actually, no. It would have to go through this tank. Yeah.
That was my question, is I wonder if you just all of a sudden consolidated risk in one area to where if there was an earthquake. Of course, there may be more problems than just water at that point. I don't know.
Yeah, a big earthquake, we would have a lot more problems.
Are these pipes that are coming into this tank, are they movable in case there's, a minor earthquake that might shift this?
Well, it's ductile iron, so it has some flexibility in it, yes. Yeah, they're ductile iron.
And from what you just said, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're pumping from the city compound and it's not going through this tank, it's going back into the feeder line from the exit from tank 3, it would be backing.
No, it actually goes in the exit from tank 3.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because I was having the same question, but you could almost kind of fill it from the.
We actually do fill it in the summertime.
But I'm in answer to Matt's question, if you had a problem there and you had to shut off that tank from being serviced from the other tanks or from Knowles or from Rotary Park, you still could have some water flowing into it, backfilling up from 4 South.
Exactly.
That's what I was,
That's
Yeah.
my
And
question.
maybe
Yeah.
I didn't answer correctly. I didn't
No,
understand. what
that's
you were
okay.
asking.
No,
We
yeah.
can do it both ways.
Yeah.
We can bring it
Yeah.
down and we can bring it up to all of our tanks.
Yeah, that's good.
9 South Well does the Hobble Creek tanks, right?
Oh,
And so we've got a lot of options, which is really good.
plus some of us have the creek. We just go down the creek and get some water. Okay, thank you very much, Brad. Okay, are there any further items we need to talk about? Okay, I just want to remind everybody about tomorrow about Rita's. Is that right, Patrick? Okay, she said she may not be there. I'm trying to get her attention over the drinking fountain, and it's not working. So,
she's out there.
She's
I'll-
out there at the fountain.
yeah, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll move that we adjourn.
Second,
I'll second it.
those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Josh, can I ask you a question?